All right, let's get this started.
Nice.
Hey everyone, welcome to the third O.A.T.S panel that we're doing, students to professionals. I'm Jeff and I'm hosting today, and I'm gonna honestly just pass it off to everyone else because there's a lot of people to go through. And we're gonna start off with the first person I see in my Zoom, Emily.
Oh, who?
Yeah, why don't you tell us about yourself and where you work right now?
I work in Springfield. Wait, Amaleen or Emily?
Yeah,
Emily. That was the first one. Sorry.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Emily.
Emily K. I'm sorry. This happens every single time we're in the same room.
Okay, I'll go by M from now on.
All right, M.
Sorry.
And we'll. All right.
Because of you.
All right. Let's start off with telling us about yourself and where you work.
I'm M. I work at Jamfield as a layout artist. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess we'll move on from there. Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise. I work at Mercury Filmworks, and I'm a builds and rigging artist.
Awesome. Now, Amaleen.
I'm Amaleen, and I'm at Jamfield as a 2D animator.
Awesome. Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I work at Jamfield as a layout artist, and I was hired at Studio Day. Yay!
Awesome. And finally, Michaela.
Oh, I love my friends. I'm Michaela. I'm a 2D animator at Mercury Filmworks.
Nice. All right. Honestly, let's talk about, because we're going to go from students to professionals, so I kind of want to talk about everyone's like last month of school and how you led up to like getting from a student to a professional, like, and what that feeling was like in the beginning, like last month of school. How were you feeling? I know this is probably going to trigger a lot of memories for some people.
Oh, yes.
Take us back. Yeah. I guess I'll start. If
Yeah,
that's
go.
Cool. So yeah, the last month of school. So this was kind of when COVID hit. So we are all sort of thrown a bit into disarray because we didn't know like what the future held for us. But yeah. So for me, it was a little stressful, but with like we kind of ended up just, I don't know, at least on my end, like kind of just pushed to get to the end of the semester. Was really just stop focusing on things like physical things like business cards and stuff and started focusing more on like what's our website, like that's kind of the key point here. And just then we all kind of like went on, like I set up a Discord for us all to like talk. And we could go in and out of chat for like Studio Day if we wanted, and just things like that, just so we all still felt like kind of cohesive, I guess. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
You might start to get a little anxious. I know I felt very anxious, personally, about your work and, you know, imposter syndrome. And I personally felt that my work, I'm not getting hired. Yeah, that was the major thing for me, and probably the only thing I can really point out that Rachel hasn't talked about. But you gotta just kind of push that to the side. Trust in the process. You know, I'm sure your demo reels are gonna be fire. And like the way the year works is, you know, the teachers, they all work in the studios and they know you now and they probably want to hire you. So yeah, just try to get over, or try to have confidence in your work. I know that's hard. Yeah.
Louise, do you want to go?
Yeah, so last month of school, I was actually in studio because I was hired via internship. And I had a lot of trouble with like my demo reel because I didn't really know what to put in it, because builds is quite a specialty thing and not a lot of people wants to do it. But yeah, I kind of just, you know, threw together some stuff, and you got to really trust in yourself. Like, even if you think your stuff is not good, I can guarantee it is. Like, it's not as bad as you think it is.
I think I took one of your builds and animated
Oh, yeah,
it.
you did. I forgot.
Yeah. No, it was a pretty good build, so
for my first one. Yeah. Like I look back at that one, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Em, do you want to go?
Yeah, so for the last month of school, like Rachel said, it was COVID. I know our class was pretty we were pretty much like a family, so like we'd still talk online, have Discord classes and stuff, even if like we didn't need to. Not having a grad show kind of sucked, but we adapted. We made sure our websites and online portfolios are better. We hung out during grad show to like keep each other company, and yeah, everything turned out cool.
Awesome. And finally, Michaela.
No, I actually have to say something, don't I?
Yes, you do.
So I don't, not to contrast everything that's been said so far, but I personally, that last month, found it super hard to stay motivated. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the mixture of COVID. Maybe it's just because it's the end. It's the end of college. And nobody likes the end of anything. Like, if we're going to be real, like that's sad. You're going to have to leave all your friends. You're going to have to move on to some new adventure that you never know what's going to happen. So I ended up kind of internalizing that a little bit. And fortunately, because I have incredible friends who were always talking and they were always positive and they were always social, it helped me to kind of get out of that and, focus on the now, focus on making the best work that I can make, putting my best foot forward for studio day and just seeing what'll happen. So that's pretty much the only advice I can give, is just constantly reach out to your friends, check on them, talk to people, It's the most important thing when it comes to this last month, or the last month, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, you have brought up a lot about studio day, so let's talk about your studio day, which is a very unusual studio day for that time because of COVID. How was it? Like, what was everyone's individual experience on that studio day? I don't even know if you guys really had a studio day. It was just a bunch of Zoom talks.
Basically, what went down as a general thing is that we basically just all sat around at home waiting for emails to come in, which was a little terrifying, I think, for most people, because we're all it's not like we could all be like, oh, you've got this, or comfort each other. We're all distanced from each other, so we're all just sitting there anxiously waiting for things to come through. So I think it was definitely different. I don't know if I'll pass it off, because I think my studio day experience was a little unique in that I already had a job secured, so I'll pass it off to other people who might have been waiting for things.
Who didn't have a job secure on studio day, and this might have been more of a tense day. All right, 3. So we'll start off with Emily, because that's the first person in my list here. Sorry.
My studio day was pretty much just sitting around the computer, talking to friends, seeing if anyone had heard anything. We'd gotten a few emails from studios just generally saying congrats and stuff, but I didn't hear anything studio day. It actually was 2 days later that I got contacted the first time. I feel like for a majority of people, it was within that week, not necessarily the first day that they got contacted, since it wasn't live right away interviews. But yeah, I had an interview 2 days later.
Amaleen?
I just kind of sat around, waited anxiously. I went to a friend's house because my neighbors are part of my social circle. So that was helpful. They're also a grad with me, so we were kind of just clutching each other and rocking back and forth. But yeah, like Em said, you're probably gonna get contacted throughout the week, and I think at least one studio I can remember contacted a bunch of people super late, at least 2 weeks, or maybe I was working when they contacted me. But if you don't get an email right the day of, don't worry. You're probably gonna get something But yeah, it just might not happen immediately. But that's completely normal.
Yeah. And finally, Michaela.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially touching on that, because I didn't get contacted until a month after studio day. Like for that whole month, I was sitting there just freaking out. Like, oh my god, like this is it. I've thrown away 3 years of my life. Like nothing I did was good enough. It was the worst. I actually went home because I am not from Ottawa. I am from Sault Ste. Marie. That is 10 hours away. I went home for a week to just sit there and like wallow in this is the worst thing ever. But it's not. And we're all here to tell you that it's not. It's okay. If you don't get contacted for a little while, it's going to happen. Don't worry about it. You're not bad, I promise. You wouldn't have made it this far if you were. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we've talked a little about studio, I kind of want to ask you all about your first interview process and how that went. Let's go back to Michaela since you're always
I
at the end.
didn't have interviewed, dude.
Oh no!
I didn't
You
get
just
interviewed.
you were just
No.
emailed and like come on board.
I just got an email and they were like, can you start Monday? And I was like, I don't know. I am so far away right now, dude.
That's my dream. I wish I didn't have to do an interview ever again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would have bombed it. They would have honestly met me in person and been like, oh.
Who did have an interview then?
I did have an interview with Jam Filled, because I was advised to so it's kind of hard to explain, but I had the internship and it was kind of talked about that they wanted to bring me back full time, but I was getting offers from Jam Filled and I was advised to at least keep my options open. Mm-hmm. They told me to go to it, just see how it was, but then still have the choice. Mm-hmm. So I just went and yeah, it was really good.
Awesome.
Did you want me to explain more what it was like or
for the interview process?
Yeah.
What is something that stuck out to you during that interview process of any questions or anything that made you nervous?
It was pretty chill. It was mostly just a conversation between it was me and two other people from Jam. It was just very straightforward, just what do you like most about our studio, and do you have any questions, and what is your knowledge on whatever your fields of interest is. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was pretty it was really chill, honestly.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot who else also had an interview, but whoever wants to go next can go.
So I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had an interview with Jam. It was via Zoom. There was 2 other people on, and it was pretty much just, a get to know you kind of thing. They just wanted to see how you vibed and if you were a good fit for the studio and how you reacted around people. Just to make sure you're a friendly, nice person to work with.
Yeah.
And then they told me I'd be getting a test and they'd contact me later.
Awesome. And who else had it? Amaleen, I think.
Yeah. I had 2 interviews, one from Merck and one from Jam. It was a little awkward because someone in my house started yelling about work during the Jam interview, and it was I personally thought, well, that's that. I'm not going to get hired at Jam Filled, and that it worked out, but yeah, they'll ask you about, or Jam Filled asked me, what do you like about our studio? What do you know about Jam Filled? And I did know things about Jam Filled, and I knew that I really wanted to get hired there, but of course my mind blanked, and that might happen to you, but it's okay because they're very friendly. It was, yeah, they put me at ease. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they might ask, this happened to me, they might ask for more work. I think it's because they weren't convinced with my demo reel. So I wasn't given a test, but I was asked to send in more work. So I sent them some second year stuff, which was kind of scary because that's all I had. But yeah, so that might happen. So don't freak out. That happens.
Yeah. And Rachel, you didn't have one either, right?
I didn't have one. I did a test for Jamfield like back in like December, and because I was getting hired through like O.A.T.S and like Rio and Rita, like I kind of knew them and they kind of knew me because I'd gone for like a little mini studio tour, so they got to know me that way. So then when the time came around, they were just like, hey, join us, and I was like, cool. Yeah.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into your first, like, say, few weeks, like month of working in the studio. How was that experience like? And is there anything that like was really positive about that experience? Anything that you were like, oh, shaky, nervous, anxious? And then we will start Michaela because you got to pass on the last question, so you don't get one now.
Wow, I don't get any breaks. Okay, straight up, first week, I was terrified. Absolutely, just out of my skin. Like, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing. This is the worst thing ever. They're gonna find out. Like, they're gonna know somehow that I don't know what I'm doing, and this is gonna be the end of it. So the studio that I originally got hired at was PIP. I had started in-house, like walked in the first day. They kind of, showed me the place, showed me my desk, got set up. Like, I met the IT guy, we got our computer set up, and we started working on scenes almost immediately. It's not that much different than school. I don't know how to explain it other than that. Like, you get your scenes, you open them, you familiarize yourself with the characters, watch the Leica a couple times. The Leica is just like the storyboard, so you know what's going on. And then you do your best and you hand it in. And that was pretty much the same experience as when I started at Mercury too. Like, it was, got set up, got right to work. Introduce yourself to your supervisor. That's always important. Just, you're a lot more prepared for the job than you think you are. As much as when you go in and you're going to be absolutely terrified, like, you'll know what you're doing. There's no secret recipe. There's no like special tips that we can give you that you're going to automatically be prepared. You just walk in and you do your absolute best, and that's all they can ask of you.
Yeah. Anybody else want to take it from there?
I actually have a question for Michaela.
No.
Go. Shoot.
Did they start you like straight on production scenes?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, both times I didn't get it. I got gonna go ahead and say this. This usually doesn't happen, I don't think, but I didn't do any training for both studios. I just kind of started on production almost immediately. Immediately. I sat down and I opened a scene and I handed it in and I was like, I'm sorry. But yeah, usually you will get, like, there will be a training period.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up from there because I actually, so I started working, so I had like this really weird, like, probably not like supposed to have happened where I started, I got hired before studio day, which is, that's not supposed to happen. Like, not just an internship, like a work.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
If you get offered a job before studio day, take it.
This is really bad if we're all sitting here like, this isn't supposed to happen, but
you're not supposed
like,
Neil
it did,
got,
yeah.
like, I got in trouble for Neil because of it, but anyway, the point is, I started work literally the day after studio day. But when I started work, so I was really terrified. So because of like school, I kind of had, combined with like second year and third year, I had almost kind of internalized that like, I was just an imposter, kind of like what Michaela was saying, like, they're gonna find out. So when I started, I was so scared, and I had kind of heard like horror stories about the industry that like, if you don't work hard, we're just gonna like fire you, like, we don't need you, like messing up the pipeline and stuff like that. Like, so I was terrified. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna set a whole production back on my first week or something, probably, but then I joined. And like, I started work, and my supervisors were super nice. They're like, oh, like, don't worry about it. We're going to take you into a 3-week training for 6 scenes. And they were just like, take your time. I'm going to walk you through every step. We're going to talk it out. Like, you're doing great. Like, oh, you're like, they were so supportive. And then like, and it was such a contrast to what I had like thought the industry was going to be. I thought it was just going to be work, 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 work. But then I guess it depends on like what team you join and like what sort of like in the studio. But that was kind of the experience I had where they were like, let's make sure you know what you're doing so we can best prepare you for the rest of your time here. So yeah. Like it was like kind of a relief. I was still terrified and I ended up like working more than I should have, but it wasn't because of them. It was like my own demons from school, if that makes sense. So yeah.
It's a common thing a lot recent grads go through is the overworking yourself because you feel the need to from school.
Yeah, I definitely did that. Don't do that. Please. I burnt out and I I learned from that. Don't do it. Work the normal work hours. And if you're overwhelmed, tell them. That's all. I'll pass it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say like I was the same as Rachel. Right before my internship, I really didn't feel like I was qualified. I think I like stayed up all night trying to like just, get like extra study time in, like, oh, can I do this, on like builds and stuff. But yeah, it was really, I didn't have a training period. I went straight into production, but they did start small. They do start you like on easy stuff, and they really do, like they're not gonna get mad if you don't know how to do something. I think I was asking questions like every 10 minutes, but that's normal, and they are happy to help you all the time. And yeah, like honestly, and also to do with I can't find my words, deadlines. Yeah, honestly, it's a good thing to really tell your supervisor in advance if you don't think you can meet that deadline, instead of just waiting till the last minute, because, like they will not get mad. I guarantee you, if you just tell them like, hey, my ETA is this, but I don't think I can get this done, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Amaleen, do you want to take it from there?
Yeah. The first month, maybe month and a half, it was weird. I had a very easy time, but that's because the amount of work given to us was very little. And I think that's just because they were just trickling it very slowly. I think back then I could maybe only do 300 frames in like 2.5 weeks, so that's not a lot. And I really struggled at that. I also did overwork myself like crazy, and my supervisor had to be like, girl, don't do that. She was like, it's okay, you're done, just chill, this is free money, just nap, you're getting paid, that's the job. And yeah, I'm glad that I did. Now I'm kind of crunching a little bit because we have like a quota now, but it's been 6 months, so yeah, that's to be expected. Yeah, it was very, very chill. Yeah, you learn a lot. You learn a ton.
God. Yes.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. No question is a dumb question. I've probably asked the dumbest questions, and yeah, my supervisor is a god for dealing with me. So yeah.
Finally, Emily.
Well, so I started work like 2 weeks after grad show, and the first month I did 2 weeks of training, and then I was given real scenes to work on, and I definitely did overtime right away because I was in the mindset of school that if I'm taking a break, I'm failing. But then my supervisors very clearly told me not to do that because I was a employee. I was paid to work certain hours, and the rest of the time was my own. I was new. If I needed more time, I just had to ask. Own was not going to throw off production, and I needed to start like enjoying my social time and not just worrying about work all the time. So
Awesome.
God. I feel
Yeah. So here's another question for all of you, and whoever wants to pick it up, you can. So for your first, let's say, your first batch of scenes, what was like the thing that threw you off the most from going from school to the studio? What was like the biggest obstacle that you weren't prepared for?
I'm gonna
Rachel
pick
seems
this.
like she wants to say
Yeah,
something.
sorry. I'm gonna also Amaleen muted by accident.
I'll
Stuck muted. I'm gonna pick this up and just say that I learned more in like the first like few months of work than I did like all year in third year. And I know that sounds crazy, and you'd be like, what is there to learn? What else is there to learn? No, I learned so much. So when I first started, like my first batch of scenes, I was so like blown away by all the things I had to learn. Like it was like in school I didn't really learn a whole lot about like layer separations and like placeholders and like what is build, like what are we leaving for builds versus what is a layout, like, you know, what is part of your job. Because in school it was all like, okay, so for layout, you know, we draw an establishing shot, right? Like that's, oh cool, that's cool for school. It gets you the line mileage you need. However, in the studio, like you're doing things with characters involved, so like you're composing a shot around a specific character. You have layering things you need for the animators to know. Like you have to leave notes on the scene sometimes, depending on the studio. Like, hey, like just letting you know, like builds, this is for this scene or whatever. And it's things like that like I just didn't know anything about. So I learned so much so quickly. It was almost exhausting, but like got through it. But I was also like, you know, like I was so excited to be like, oh my God, there's so much more that I didn't even know about, you know?
Yeah, I'll continue that. Yeah, definitely for layout. One thing I learned a lot about is characters with layout, because like in school you just design your own thing, establishing shot, and they're like, oh, throw in a size relationship, and you're like, whatever, like V-dude, throw them in. And you kind of just like place them randomly just to be like, look, I did it.
I would avoid putting them places I knew my layout was wrong. Don't do that.
You'd be like, oh, he doesn't work over there, but he works over there. Let's just put him over there. But in a show, you don't get to decide that. The Leica shows you where the characters are and what they're going to be interacting with, and you have to make sure it works. You can't cheat it. You can't hide it. So making sure a layout works with a character and like not, and like how it has to be down the pipeline and not just be like, it's a pretty picture, was definitely a learning curve.
I'm still learning that.
Yeah. Any of the animators want to take it from there?
I don't remember the question.
That's fair. What was the biggest obstacle that threw you off going from school to the studio? What was like something you never learned in school that when you entered the studio it totally surprised you?
Oh, I mean, I guess technology-wise, the thing that threw me off the most, mostly at Mercury, was the manager system. I had no idea how that works. They have like a certain way of like handing things in and a certain like naming convention that they have. But like they do explain that to you. But at first I was like, oh my God, we just threw stuff in the Dropbox. Like I don't know what I'm doing here. But the thing that surprised me the most was the knowledge that there were people in studio that have been there for like years and years and years that were having the same problems that I think that was the thing that surprised me the most. Was it was just like that everybody has questions, and like you don't just suddenly know all the answers one day. Like there's always going to be a learning curve for everybody. Mm-hmm. That was the thing that I was like, oh, we're all doing this. Okay, that's cool. Great. Like whether it's an unsatisfactory rig or it's like a particularly challenging Leica, or like, you know, an episode that might have a bit more action than usual. Like it's normal to struggle with stuff like that. Like you're not an outlier. That was a big moment for me.
Mm-hmm. Amaleen is the other animator.
I think the thing that surprised me the most recently, actually, was just how many new toolkit things that I've put in my, oh God, how do I say this? Tool belt for the way I work and the way I do things for my scenes. Like for Jam-Filled, we don't have, or at least I don't think we do, we don't have a parts request section. So if I need a new hand, I'll draw a new hand in. If there are small fixes with rigs, I will fix the rig instead of sending it to the department. I think I kind of have to do that, and it was an adjustment. I've learned how to quad draw the layouts into perspective because I needed it for my scene. I've learned how to, I didn't know how to do this before, but you guys probably know more than me in regards to builds, but I didn't know how to do cutters. So the other day I rigged like 8 cutters because there's some issue in some BG thing. And instead of just bugging someone about it, I was like, oh, okay. Then I did it. But yeah, I think it's just all the small things you learn throughout the day, you'll start to realize that, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. I'm not asking my supervisor for help. I'm remembering this and this is fine. But yeah, just learning new things. I know it's very vague, but
it's valid.
Yeah.
The cutter one is good. That's a thing that they don't tell you a lot about, but it becomes one of the most useful tools for animators.
It's great.
It really is, honestly.
Yeah, I still look up how to make a cutter, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I have a little picture of how everything hooks up properly in my desktop.
My entire notebook is just like me drawing node views, like, oh, it just cuts into here. This is how it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Louise, what was your biggest surprise moment getting into the studio?
Like, I don't know if this is really, really like specific to builds, but I can only think of one thing, and it's the builds in studio are not as complex as you'd think they are. Like in some shows they are, like depending on, the style. But I went in thinking like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like gigantic node views with like really complex like auto patch nodes and just tons of plugins. But honestly, a lot of them, like, they just kind of they're quite simple, like in terms of those builds. Usually with builds, it's nice to have complex things, but where you can like cut corners or just do things a bit simple, they really do want you to do that because Harmony will just chug if you have too many nodes. So that was really surprising to me that it wasn't as complex as I thought they'd be.
Awesome.
But yeah.
So for the next question, let's talk about something that might make you all nervous, but let's hopefully get through it together. How are you all feeling about frame rate or quotas at this point?
Not incredible.
That's fair. But let's talk about it, because it is like a part of the job is quotas and deadlines. And starting out, it might be it's very nervous to and can also be a little overwhelming, like having to like get all these things done, because you are doing probably maybe at the start of a job, going from school to the studio, maybe 3 to 4 times as much as you would do for an assignment. Yeah. Who wants to start?
I guess I'll go.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Like, I'll just like be honest and say that like I think the show I'm on is a little, it's a little. Maybe I don't know if it's weird or what, but like the way quota, like they gave us a quota of what they wanted in the beginning. They were like, this is how many scenes is quota, like you'll work your way up. But I mean, of course I was working overtime and I didn't tell them I was, so then I ended up like, I thought I had to do the amount of scenes they gave me in half the time, so I worked overtime to get it done. They're like, oh, she can handle way more. Little did they know I was actually working like so much extra time. But like, so went from that to like ended up like working on way more than I probably needed, until I ended up being like, hey, whoa, okay, let me be honest. And I let them know, and they were totally chill with it. Right now for quota, like on my show, it's kind of unclear like what quota is anymore, but they just kind of like, here's your scenes and like here's your deadline. Like if it doesn't work for you, let us know and we'll adjust it. I think it's also because like maybe because layout is at the start of the pipeline, so a lot of like if we're behind is dependent on how fast like paint can catch up to us, sort of thing. So like because we get the Leicas first, we kind of go through it, you know what I mean? So it's a little different, I think, for in my case, so I'll pass it off.
Yeah. Anybody else want to take it up from here? Or else I'm gonna have to pick one of you.
House goes.
Yeah, I'm on
the
the same show as Rachel, so
also nebulous.
Yeah.
Which is
kind of like weird.
honestly the best kind, as no confirmed number.
Yeah, like they told us a number, and then they were just like, and then as time went on, like it just kind of like got more and more vague, and they like kind of were just like, they gave us more and more time for the scenes, so like, because they, I think it's like they underestimated like how long the show itself would actually take and how much, so like it kind of became like, okay, what can the artists overall on the like the whole team handle, and we'll make that quota, I guess.
Like now you get your scenes and like your supervisor will be like, okay, I know you, I think you can get it done in this time. Because some scenes, like you could have a bigger scene count, but they could be simpler scenes, while other scenes you have a smaller scene count, but it's a more complex location. So they kind of really do it per artist, not just in general.
Yeah.
Louise.
Yeah.
Do you have quota as a or?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like Rachel, where they just kind of give you the scenes and then, we need this done by Friday because setup needs it for, scene setup. So not really that much to add, honestly. It's just, you got your scenes, can you do them? And then if you, usually like I'll finish them in advance and then you just have to ask your supervisor for a reload. So yeah.
Or hot tip, you just don't and you take some time off.
Oh yeah, I feel so guilty though. I'm just like, oh my god.
Amaleen or Michaela, since you were both 2D animators, this probably is more, the frame rate thing is probably more in your field.
I'm on the same show as Emily and Rachel.
Is it also nebulous?
Yes and no. I think in the beginning, once we finished training, we trained for a while because animation was too far ahead of all the other departments. And so they didn't actually have scenes set up until probably, I would say, 2.5 months in is when we were put on actual scenes. Like, that's that, no more training. We weren't really given a quota until maybe this month, like I think it's like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. Time is not a thing right now. It was 600 frames. That's what we were told. No one could meet it. No one was close. But they actually recently lowered our quota, and we were told that the studio average was only 300 frames, which made me feel better because, that's good. The less, the better, I guess. And now our new quota for animation is 400 frames in a week. Still hard. Yeah. Basically, you kind of just try your best. Sometimes you meet it, sometimes you don't. And it's not the end of the day if you don't meet quota. Try not to do excessive overtime. It's inevitable. I do overtime. I always tell my supervisor if I do overtime, just so she knows I'm not some sort of god that can bust out frames in 40-hour work weeks. But yeah, I think for my current batch, I'm it's due today. It was due today, and I've only handed in 2 scenes. But she knows. She's like, no problem. There's no rush. I think the next episode isn't even set up yet, so we're not in crunch time yet. But yeah, I don't think we have right now quota, but we do. It's like
our show's really weird, like, basically.
Yeah.
Like, things are, I don't know if it's normal. Like, this is our first show, so, like, we're all like, is this normal? We don't know.
From what I've been told, it's been a hard show. There have been hiccups, and I'm pretty sure, I think layout's more stressed than animation. I think Builds is stressed. I know Builds is behind. Poor Builds.
Well, if it's any consolation, the next show that you get on that's easy, you'll be really happy.
Hopefully, that's the dream.
Michaela, how do you feel about frame rate? Yeah.
Okay, so I am actually paid by the frame. So my quota is 400 frames a week. It's terrifying because, you know, how much work I do essentially indicates how much money I make. So, I mean, I do tend to pull overtime a little bit more than I think I should. I mean, I don't. You shouldn't do this. I'm gonna heavily preface this by saying you shouldn't do this. I do go in on weekends more often than not because I'm just constantly scared of not meeting quota. That's pretty much just what it is. Right now I am meeting about half that, so about 200 frames a week. But like they know that you're not going to be bang 400 right off the bat. Like there's a learning curve. They're not expecting you to do like fantastic work right off the get-go. You're going to get revisions. Don't be scared of them. But just, I guess, kind of make sure that you have a healthy balance between new frames and especially your revisions. Don't leave your revisions because that'll take a toll on your frame count if you leave them to all pile up and then you're just doing revisions for a full week. That happened to me. It wasn't fun. But yeah, you know, I'm talking to my supervisor. He's incredible. He's like honestly a godsend, and like they get it, you know. So I like quota's scary. It is absolutely scary, but don't let that rule your work experience. Don't be so focused on meeting quota that you can't think about anything else, that you aren't going home on time, that work is your life. Don't let that happen.
Yeah, I think you've all brought up a good point about your supervisors being understanding. They've all been there. They all know the struggle.
Yeah.
And they all made it out. Yeah, so let's go into another question for, I guess, mental health and like what have you, being in the studio now, what do you think is the best thing you can do for your mental health?
Nice. I'm gonna take this to start. I think the best thing, like it was, you mentioned it, sorry, you said it was like what, do you mind repeating it real quick? My brain broke.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, sorry, do you mind repeating the question real quick?
Yeah, let's about mental health and what do you think the best way to manage your mental health at the studio is? Because I think a lot of students, they're coming from a very go stressful situation. So this might be the graduating, going into the studio might be a good time for them to start to slow down.
Yeah. For me, going like what I've learned is the best for my mental health while working is literally just trying to like finish, like have a distinction between like work time and me time. I think I really kind of destroyed my mental health. I mentioned earlier that I burnt out, and this is why. So like I was scared that I was just gonna get fired or something because of all the horror stories, quote unquote, like just kind of things that was kind of told in school low key, like the industry's gonna like mess you up and you gotta try really like hard or they're gonna fire you kind of thing. Like no one explicitly said those things, but it was like undertoned. So when I started, I was overworking myself and not telling my supervisors. They had no idea, so it's not even on them, like it's on me. And then I burnt out in August. And when I burnt out in August, I straight up like couldn't even I couldn't even like really draw anymore. I was like so tired. I was like not sleeping much. I was working way too hard. And I went to my supervisor and I like sent like a message like over Teams, because we're all working from home, And I was like, hey, like, I just wanted to apologize. Like, I know I haven't met deadlines recently and like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I just want to be a really good member of this team. And I was so sad and I was like crying. And I was writing this message, which is maybe not the best thing to do, but I did it and I sent it off. And my supervisor responded, like, can we call? And then so my supervisor called me and he was just basically like, hey, like, it's okay. You're actually doing great, okay? Like, don't worry. Like, if you're overwhelmed, like, don't worry about it. You know what? Take the rest of the day off, Just, like, it was, like, I don't know, 10 a.m., like, 11 a.m. And he was just like, take the rest of the day off. Like, we want to make sure you're in a good mental headspace. Like, you are important to us. Like, this work will get done no matter what. Like, by all of us as a team working together. It's not all on you. So if you're overwhelmed, like, don't be afraid to tell us. Like, it's okay. And so I conveniently, like, just by chance had vacation, like, booked for, like in a few days after that. So it was just all about, like, he was just basically like, okay, let's get you to your vacation, and then you can just do nothing, and you can hopefully recharge, and that'll help you, and then we can figure out a way to, like, make you, like, have a good time, like, working, and, like, you can be more, like, stable, like, you don't have to worry about these things, and, like, because, like, I hadn't communicated that I was struggling, and that's the mistake. So if you need help, just tell them, and don't work overtime. This was around the time when they actually started offering paid overtime, because, like, I was doing it and not telling them, but now they're like, hey, it's kind of crunch time, like, we'll pay you to work extra. But, like, my supervisor was like, no, I know you got offered overtime, but I'm not letting you do any because you need to rest, and I'm going to make sure you rest. And then you can do, if you want to do, like, next week, like, when you come back, if you want to do, like, just a few hours, like, I won't stop you, but you're not doing anything crazy. Okay? You need to recover. So, I don't know. That was kind of my experience, I guess. Long-winded, but yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else want to take it from there?
I will say that there are hills and valleys. For me, my batch dictates, whether I hate myself or not. Not the healthiest thing. I'm joking, but you'll get a hard batch sometimes. And for me in the beginning, if I couldn't finish a batch, or if I struggled, and if I got a really hard batch, I would, get into a really dark place, and it's not the best. I think probably the worst thing that ever happened was I actually lost a scene. One of my scenes didn't upload properly. Probably the worst thing that I could have done, in my opinion. Yeah. It had to be reanimated. I think it's done. I don't know. But yeah, I had to tell my supervisor that, oh my gosh, my scene's missing, and I don't have a backup, because get an external hard drive. I didn't have one at the time, but you should get one. But it took me a while to recover from that. But I think the best thing you can do is just to be honest. Try not to be too hard on yourself. If you're in a bad place with work, you're struggling, things are hard, you might be pulling overtime, just you'll get past the bad batch, and then tell your supervisor that, oh my gosh, this sucked. That's what I do. And then she would usually give me an easier batch, or at least she knows how bad I struggled. And if I can get past losing an actual scene, I didn't know that would ever happen. Then I'm sure you guys can too. Yeah. But I think Jamfield has mental health days you can take.
We also have,
We can
there's
start-
also like mental health support. Like there's actually like a therapy, like there's resources for mental health through the studio.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you can just take one whenever. Just let your supervisor know. Yeah, super useful. That's that.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's go to Michaela.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you go.
The thing that helped my mental health the most in studio, I mean, because I'm working in studio, and I think this is something that's really only applicable for when you're working in studio, but it's really just like talking to other people in studio, not necessarily your supervisor, not necessarily, you know, like people that you're working with on something. It doesn't even have to be about work, but honestly, just, you know, maintaining connections with other people. Like I have a incredibly hard time with communication. Just I don't know what it is, but I have a hard time talking to people. So I have a tendency to just not. But, you know, even just, you know, like I walk in and I wave at the same like 2 or 3 people every morning, and that is, I don't think these people realize how much that means to me, but it absolutely does. Just, you know, having a connection with people and being able to, you know that like there's people that you can turn to if eventually it does get bad, or if eventually you know, you find you can't handle it by yourself anymore. Just knowing that there's a support like a support system in place, I guess, is the thing that helped me the most, you know?
Yeah.
Louise.
Yeah. Also, that cat is so cute.
There is a
Thank you.
cat.
I saw, yeah.
I love the cat. I got distracted. I was like, oh, baby.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god. Yeah.
Guacamole's a baby. And he won't stop crying for food.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like, again, just the same thing, you know, bring up any concerns that you have with your supervisor or your director or whatever. And because what happened to me recently is so I've been moved between shows a lot, like just recently. And it was basically just because they're understaffed, or like they just need like more help because they're behind with builds. Now, I wasn't told this initially. And so within like a month, I'd been between like 3 shows. Now, you can kind of guess what I started thinking at that point. And I was thinking, oh, am I just getting like, you know, am I just not good? So I ended up like just messaging my production manager, just saying, hey, what's going on here? Like, am I doing something wrong here? And he was really sweet about it. He was like, oh, you know, don't worry about it. It's just, you know, because of this and stuff. So yeah, just ask, you know, bring up your, you know, any problems you have, and it is much better.
Mm-hmm. And finally, I think we have Emily.
So when I started like working from home, well, I only worked from home. All my roommates had gone back home for the summer. Like COVID happened, they all went back home. So I lived alone all summer. So I think the longest I went was a month without really seeing anybody in person. So that wasn't great. That actually really sucked. The only people I really talked to was like my parents and my supervisors. And maybe for like 20 minutes a day, if that. So what we started to do was we'd set certain dates for like just like our little like friend group, a jam. We'd do like, oh, on Fridays at lunch, like during our lunch hour, we'll call each other and we can catch up. Because like, yeah, we have work, but like it's an hour, it's our lunch break. Let's chat, let's hang out. I'd do like gaming with some of my friends online, try to like safely hang out because of COVID, go for walks. Like not just sit in front of the computer and work all night. Really just try to get up and move, even if I wasn't really going anywhere, and just like walk around my my neighborhood just for like 10-20 minutes. And it made a big difference being like not work focused the whole time, because I kind of lived like, if I wasn't working, I was eating or sleeping, and if I wasn't eating or sleeping, I was working, and that wasn't healthy. So I had to add some healthy stuff for my mental health.
Yeah. Let's go a little bit more positive now that we've all been bummed out thoroughly. What was it like going from school where you're spread out a lot through with many different classes to finally focusing on one thing, and like getting that, like just being able to do one thing for 8 hours, and compared to maybe like 12 to 14 to 16 hours spread out for multiple different projects?
Oh God, it made me realize like I wasn't as slow as I was. So it was like as slow as I thought, because in school I thought I was so slow. I was like, I can only do like 5 layouts in a month. Oh my God. Like I started like getting a little freaked out, but then I started work and I was like, oh, it's because I didn't have like a million other projects going on in the background. So it was a bit of a relief actually, like to realize like, oh, it's when you only have one thing to focus on, it's kind of like, oh, I can actually just put my mental energy into this and not have like a million things I have to worry about in the background, like, oh, when's my 3D due, or oh, I've got that 2D class, or like, you know what I mean? Like like you can just focus, do what you pick to do, like your specialization. And I mean, I love layout, so I picked layout, and so now I get to do what I like every day. And yeah, I don't know, it was a relief for me, at least.
I guess, yeah, same thing. Yeah. I mean, it was, at first I still thought I was really, really slow, but it's only recently that I realized like, oh wow, I'm totally getting this. This is really fun. And when you get that one scene that you're able to put in so much love, and you get a batch that you completely vibe with, you feel so good. And when I think the rough cut of one of the episodes was just recently done, and seeing your work in an episode, it's just so cool. The coolest thing. And then you get to see your friends' work, and you're like, oh, hey, I hated that scene so much.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, that was, Rachel said it all.
Sorry, so I don't know if anyone has anything else to like add.
Yeah. Anybody else have a point to make of going from spreading out to full 8 hours of one thing?
Well, I was gonna say there's one thing that I found that I didn't expect to happen, but I found myself getting really restless, just because it's like there's only one thing you got to focus on for 8 hours, and it's just that one thing, and you have to look at that one thing for the full 8 hours and do it. And I'm so used to being able to, like switching what I'm doing, like every 2 hours, every 3 hours, that, having to focus on just one thing is like, it's almost like that's too much. Like sometimes it feels like it's like there's got to be something else. There's got to be something else. But no, it's just me in this one scene, and we're like trapped in a boxing ring until one of us goes down. And I find that that's something that I struggled with for a little bit at the beginning. There was I couldn't focus on that one thing, because I was like, there's no more layout. There's no more wrestling with Maya. It's just me and Harmony, best friends forever.
Yeah, it like made me a bit paranoid in the beginning.
Yeah.
It was kind of like end of second year, like in the summer, you wake up and you're like, wait, what assignment am I on? Like what to do? And you're like, wait, no, school's done. Like this is summer. Kind of that feeling. But it also made me like appreciate layout more, because like I was able to work on it 8 hours a day and still love it. So I was like, oh, I definitely chose the right thing then. If I enjoy it more, it's not just like it was the best out of my classes. Like I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, just to add something to kind of what Michaela said, I actually, like, as much as I do love layout, I did get a little restless as well. So ways that I've kind of remedied that is by like drawing personal art, you know, which is something that I kind of neglected in school. And now that like I'm out of school, when I have the energy, like I can draw my own personal art and like, hey, maybe I want to like animate. Let me just pull something up and you know, draw a really crappy animation because like I'm not an animator, but you know, like I'll draw a little crappy animation and that'll be like, I'm like, ah, yes, I'm satisfied. Like I can now return to like layout tomorrow, you know what I mean? So it's, I don't know, it's given me like the creativity to like, I can, like it's given me more ideas to like for my personal art, I guess, like in different areas.
Awesome. Louise, did you get a chance to speak on this yet?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add, just it
Fair enough.
really is good to specialize in one thing. And yeah, like just do what you love and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I gotta get this cat off me. He's trying to eat my beard.
So cute.
Yeah, for another positive question, what is your like, oh, Emily's coming to take the cat. Yeah.
The guest of honor. Oh no.
Sorry.
Yeah, for another positive question, what was your like highlight of getting into the studio? What was like when you got there, or even a couple months in, what do you think is the highlight of being in the studio compared to school?
It feels a little bit the same since I'm working from home. So it kind of felt like, oh well, I'm in studio, but I'm still at home in my room on my MacBook. But I would say my highlight would be when I met quota for the first time without overtime. I had like that one batch that I vibed with, and then my supervisor sent me a nice little message being like, oh my goodness, good job. And I made that my desktop on my MacBook just to remind me of the good times. I can't wait till I get into the studio. I'm jealous. I'm jelly of Michaela, but I know you want to work from home, so
I just don't like walking 50 minutes to work every day. I was almost late to this call because of it.
No.
And also I would say maybe having worked 8 hours doing what you love, and then you know you're like, wow, I was just paid for that. Gosh, I love animation.
God, I feel
just the realization of, whoa, this is my job, and
like,
it's so
whoa.
cool, and I love it. And you're not gonna love it all the time, but most of the time, you know, it's a desk job at an office doing Excel sheets. So yeah.
Yeah. Emily, what was your highlight of working in the studio? Doesn't have to be physically in the studio.
Yeah, because that would be nothing. Then I haven't worked in the studio. I would just probably say like getting positive feedback from my supervisors, and then just like being happy with my progress. Because like very rarely in school do teachers really tell you like, oh my god, you're doing so great. I really like what you're like doing. Like they kind of just give you a grade and that's it. But like to actually be told like you're doing a good job is great. I love it.
Yeah, like that was a similar thing for me, was just like they actually tell you like, hey, like you're doing good, keep it up, you know, keep up the good work, you know. And it's just, I don't know, it is really nice to hear. It's really validating, especially when you're like fighting, maybe like, I don't know, I'm constantly fighting with like imposter syndrome, being like, oh, I'm not a real industry professional, like, you know, trying to get out of that like student headspace, I guess. And so whenever they're like, hey, you're doing a good job, like you're actually like doing way better than we actually expected you to, like than we were actually kind of expecting for new people to be like doing? You're doing way more scenes. And I'm like, oh wow, like cool. And then when they're like, hey, like also like because like they say I'm doing well, they'll be like, hey, so you've been doing really well recently. So we're gonna give you a challenge. And then they'll give me like a challenging badge. And it's like, even though if it's like hard, I'm like, okay, I'm excited. Like I'm gonna overcome this like boulder. I'm gonna push it up the mountain. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like taking on that. And that's, I don't know, like that's kind of my highlight. Just knowing also like kind of what Amaleen said, like, hey, like I'm getting paid to do this and not paying, like, because I racked up a lot of, student OSAP debt. So this is, I don't know, it's like a big change to instead of like accruing debt, I'm, getting rid of it. So yeah, it's exciting.
Good.
Who wants to go next, Louise or Michaela? You said it, so you go.
Okay. Wait, what was the question again?
What's your highlight of being in the studio compared to school?
Oh yeah, right. I don't know. I think like probably for builds, it's when you see people actually animating them. Like the first time I think I saw like one of my builds like being animated in like the rough cut, I was just like, wow, just like it felt so surreal. But yeah, that's basically it. But it is really cool.
Awesome.
Seeing your scenes. Ooh.
Yeah.
Something else.
And finally, Michaela.
Highlights. Oh God. That doesn't sound very good. No, there are highlights. There are. I'm just blanking.
That's okay.
I guess because like it's been said already, but really like the positive feedback, like that's not to like be putting down school or anything, but you don't really get a lot of that. It's a lot of just like touch and go. Like you get revisions and you have to hand them in, and you just pray to God that what you've handed in is good enough to get a passing grade. But in studio, like if you're struggling, they'll help you, and if you're doing well, they'll tell you. And I think that's probably the best part, is just like knowing that sometimes you are doing okay. Like I know there had been one time where I had sent a very similar message like Rachel had done, where I was just like, I don't know, like I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing, like this is just the worst, because I was like 5 weeks in and I was like, oh my God, I'm still not meeting quota, I'm terrible. But I had like an hour-long call where my supervisor was just like, he kind of explained how to do things, and at the end he was like, just keep up the good work. And I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like that was
Same.
like it was. I went into that call feeling really bad about myself, but at the end I was like, you know what? I might be okay.
Right.
But this might not be the worst thing in the world. So just the positive feedback at any capacity is really the highlight.
Yeah.
Great. So if anybody in the chat actually has any questions for the panelists, you can shoot them off now. And I can just, in the meantime, though, I can ask a few questions, and then when the questions do pop out, we can just go straight to them.
Thank you,
That's
Megan.
not a question.
Not a question, so we're going to delete that.
Get rid of the evidence.
But here's a short question for anyone who wants to answer it. If you could go back to your first interview, or if you have an interview in the future, what is a question you would want to ask? With your experience now.
Ask?
Yeah, with your experience now, if you could go back to your first interview, what would you want to ask?
I personally would definitely ask what quota is. And I know it's a little awkward to want to be like, hey, so how much vacation time does your studio give? But I think it's kind of important to understand the atmosphere of a studio and the perks. I don't know how else to say it. And I would also go back to my future self, and I would try to contact people in the studio that I'm interested in, and in all of the studios, honestly, because I think it's super valuable to ask someone or multiple people who are working in said studio how their experience is, because at the end of the day, every studio is going to be like, I'm the best studio, you should come work for me, and that's valid, and they're probably all amazing, but there might just be like some sort of deal breaker for you.
Yeah.
I definitely smiled and I nodded through all of my interviews because I was so nervous and I just wanted a job. Thankfully, I don't regret my decision. Love my job, love the studio. But yeah, that's something to think about, especially.
That's a really good answer. Before anyone else wants to answer that question, we do have one question in the chat, and then we can go back to that question. From Angeline, did the studios seek you out, or did you apply to all of them yourselves?
So what happened on studio day was there was a list of all of our portfolios put together and sent out to all the studios. So really what happened to, I would say, most of us is the studios reached out to us for that first time anyway, just because of how studio day works. But I mean, I guess I'm the only one here that changed studios, but for the second time I applied and did the test.
Yeah. Like for me, mine was like kind of weird. So like I took a test. Like, okay, so basically they Tom came into our third year layout class and was like, layout students, get your portfolios together. It's November and Jamfield's hiring and I need to give all of your portfolios to them. And so everyone, like most people, not everyone, but like a lot of people in the class put their portfolio together. What they had, it was like November, December, whatever. It was November, yes, okay. And so we're just like, oh, whatever we have, which wasn't a lot, because like it was only the first semester. So we just like put it all together, they shipped it off, and then the layout team, like the supervisors, they went through and they contacted some of us to take a test. And so we ended up taking a test, which was like a weird test, and it was like a 1-day test. Like usually tests I found are like usually you get like at least like a week to do them because they know you're busy and like stuff. But this one was weird. We only had 1 day and we had to come into studio to do it. And so we did that. And yeah, I didn't end up hearing back because they didn't want for a long time because they didn't want to hire me as like for an internship. They actually just wanted like me to start full time. So they actually waited until like March. And then they offered me like an actual full position to start like the day after studio day, which they're not supposed to do that, but they did. And that's how it happened for me. So I received offers on studio day, but I was already in a contract with Jamfield like the day after. So, you know, I had to say no to those, but I don't like regret my decision, I suppose, because like I really love it at Jamfield so far. So yeah.
Yeah, I also did the Jamfield test in November, December last year. So like I sent out my portfolio to Tom and then he sent it to Jam. I didn't get that one, but then at studio day or 2 days after studio day, they contacted me wanting me to test again and I got that one. So a bit of both.
Louise, you might be able to answer also the latest question from Kimberly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for those who had an internship, when did you apply and what tips do you have for applying?
Again, it's a little bit like for builds it's a little bit different, I think, because they actually I don't know if it's the same now, but when I applied, they did not have a test in place. They just asked me, do you have a rig that we can look at? I fortunately had one. I just sent them in an email. And yeah, that's how they just emailed me back a few weeks later saying, do you want this internship? But I did have to apply, like in the beginning, you just kind of give them your resume and your basic info. So yeah, I just basically get your work in. I don't know for animation they probably want examples of your work. And if it's builds, then give them an actual rig. So yeah, that was basically what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if anybody else in the chat has any more questions, shoot them off. But in the meantime, who else wants to answer? What would you ask in an interview if you knew? Sorry, I gotta rephrase my question. If you could go back and ask any question at your first interview with the experience you have now, what would it be? And I think Amaleen already answered it. So anybody else want to take a shot?
I'll step back.
Yeah, I think Amaleen really got it
Yeah.
about the
Yeah, it was a very good
especially
answer.
about the like the benefits and stuff and like vacation pay, because benefits was a pretty big factor in me changing studios, because the main thing is like you got to take care of yourself at the end of the day. Like, you know, we're all here because we love to animate, or because we love to do layout, or because we love to build, you know, that's what we're here to do. But at the end of the day, you have to put yourself in the best position you can financially. And, you know, like you have a responsibility to, you know, take care of your health, make sure you have shelter, make sure you have food. So benefits can do that to you. Make sure you ask what studios can do for you, essentially, so you're not dying, because that's not fun. You can't recover from that one.
Like, not to be afraid of like, okay, so like how much are you offering me if it's not clear? Like, you know, you need to know like how much they're actually planning to pay you, because I feel like sometimes they'll like kind of mention it like, I don't know, at the end, or they'll send you the contract, and that's the only time it might have been mentioned, like how much you were going to get paid. Like they just talked about everything else. But like at the end of the day, like this is a job. Like as much as you may love it, like, you know, you're like, oh, I'm so excited, I get to work like what I do and like what I love every day. At the end of the day, it's still a job, and like you still got to get paid. And so you have to make sure you know, like, what are they offering you? Like there's a kind of like a point where like a certain amount is a little too low, and you should be getting like, you know, like a decent amount, like even though you're just starting, like there is this kind of a base starting. It's like most studios have a similar level and should, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you for changing the subject to the next question that we got in the chat too. But yeah, the money talk is a hard one, especially for new grads, because you don't know what you should be making at that point. And do you, so let's talk a little bit about this, but also this probably will be a really good talk for the future because it's such an in-depth subject.
Yeah.
Do you feel like did any of you ask about money in your first interview, and do you regret not asking about it if you didn't?
Well, with mine,
yeah.
With mine, like I kind of already knew what they'd be offering me. They'd kind of already told me. So then in the interview, when like it came to the point, they were like, "Do you have any questions?" I was like, "No, I kind of already know. Like you've told me how much you're gonna pay me and stuff." But there was like the second person on the call didn't know that I knew that and was like super open with it. They were like, "Here are the benefits. Here's your pay. Like, I don't know if you're too shy to ask, but like we're putting it all in the open. Like this is what you get if you take this job." There was like no questions that were like taboo or you shouldn't ask. Like they were like, ask us anything. Like we want you to be happy, and we want you to know what you're signing up for.
But I can't speak for all studios, but like I don't think every studio in the world is going to do that. So you shouldn't accept a job if you don't know how much you're getting paid. And you should probably ask what the ramp up time is. Because personally, if I knew that I was going to be, this didn't happen, but if I was told that, oh, you're going to be thrown onto the production right away, you got this. I probably wouldn't take the job. But money is super important, and you shouldn't feel guilty about asking about it, because you got to pay them bills. And if a studio is interviewing you, I think they're already interested in hiring you. They're just, it's a formality. You need to ask questions, and that's why they're interviewing you. But technically, like, they should sell why you should want to get hired by them. Hopefully I said that right. But they need to sell themselves to you, right? They're trying to buy you. They're trying to buy you as an employee. And so money, yeah, that's
a very good point. There is a little bit of razzle dazzle that can happen in the interview where they are really trying to sell you on the studio, and they might tend to sway away from harder questions like pay. And it's your job as your own salesman to bring it back to that.
Yeah. And I've heard like that there were some people who got multiple they got multiple offers if they mentioned like, hey, I got an offer from here, like I might be taking that, like, thank you anyway. That other studio that was like that you haven't quite signed on yet, they're like, what can we do to sweeten the pot for you to come here? Like, so some studios, like, they will be prepared to offer you more if you have a competing offer, and like use that to your advantage, like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, you're a business. Mm-hmm. Sell yourself.
Mm-hmm. Let's move it on to a couple other questions, just because we're getting a lot now, which is awesome. Yes. We're going to come back to you, Angeline, because you were asked one, but I want to go to, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your name.
Is Hamza pretending to be a student?
Hamza's
pretending to be a student. Get him out of here.
Okay. But it's a good question. Kidding. What do you think is an essential thing you should do for your portfolio?
Yeah, it is a good question.
Yeah, Michaela, take it.
No.
Do it.
Mute myself.
You signed up for this.
Protest. I did, didn't I? Wow, how'd that happen?
It's on the PDF.
I guess for animators, make sure you have a really good acting piece, like something that can really showcase that how to make a character feel emotion, how to, carry a script and to get that story across. Make sure you have I guess a locomotion piece, like something that shows that you know how to move a character across the screen as well. That's good to have. Subtle acting doesn't hurt, that's I think that's something that can be overlooked, being able to sell something with a look rather than an action is important. That's something I don't think I learned until I got hired, was how not necessarily telling the audience what a character is doing, but showing them, not being this character is upset because they're crying, but selling it with maybe a blink or a head turn or something. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
It does.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. One of the layout artists want to take it?
If you don't mind, Emily, I'm gonna.
Okay.
That's cool. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get through faster now to get through the questions, so I might skip a couple people.
Yeah. So for layout, I know for a fact that at least for what our supervisors and team is usually looking for when they look a portfolio is okay, so would this actually make sense for a character to be in it? Constantly I hear, oh, their work is really nice, and oh, I love how their portfolio looks. I just wish they had included a size relationship. I hear that a lot. So include a size relationship. Don't be afraid to put that in. We want to see that characters could actually interact in this space. And it's really overlooked because when I was in school, I didn't want to do size relationships. I was like, whatever, just push it off to the side. But I hear that a lot. So I would definitely put that in.
And Louise, do you want to answer the final part for this question as the rigger?
Yeah. Yeah, basically for builds, the most important thing is, can it be animatable? Is that a word? I don't know. But can you animate? Is that that's the most important thing. Like having in your demo reel or wherever you're putting your stuff, it's not really enough to have just a still image of what like your node view looks like. It is like you can put it in, but with just builds, it's like, can you animate it, and is it movable? Even if you're not good at animation, like it's not really like the timing and the spacing that's important. It's just like, can you move it without these parts clipping? Is it rotating okay? And like you can get your friends to animate it if you want, even if like that's not your strong point. And then yeah, basically that's it for builds. Just animate them.
Awesome. Let's go to Melissa's question. Is it worthwhile to apply for an internship during school, and when would it be a good time to apply? I think this can also just apply to applying for a job too.
I would say do it. And even if you don't get it, try again. Because like it's always going to be stressful at the end of the year. And if you manage to get an internship or a job before, well, not a job, but an internship before studio day, then heck yeah. Like, don't be afraid to apply now. Even if you don't feel you're ready, because you probably won't feel like you're ready ever. Because, yeah, I think I know of a couple people that applied over and over, and now they're hired. Maybe they didn't get the internship, but the studios saw that, oh, wow, they really, really wanted it. Oh, look, they've improved from their last test, or their demo reel has gotten better, and that just shows progress. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. Anyone else want to take us before the next question?
Yeah, I mean, I took the internship in, was it January? Yeah, I'd say it was worthwhile because, like, again, this only just well, it doesn't just apply to builds, but for me personally, I learned so much on the job, and it was, very hands-on, actually doing, scenes and stuff. I just thought it was a really good experience overall. So if you're into builds, I really do recommend that. So yeah.
Let's go to the next question now. Another one from Angeline. Unless this is different Angeline. I'm not reading last names. Not sure if anyone would know this, but how many third years were hired overall to the studios? I know the schools like to boast their 99% hiring rates. Do you feel like there are plenty of opportunities for students right now? Do you know any students who didn't get to the studio, didn't go through the studio route and are working somewhere else? This is a big question.
Out of my class, I think there were only a few people, like my layout class specifically, there were a few people who didn't get hired, but I know they've either been working on their portfolio or like this is like, I don't know, like maybe 2 to 3 people like working on their portfolio, or they've been like just like kind of on multiple opportunities, like just quick ones. And I mean, that's okay. Like, there's no shame in that. Like, I feel like a lot of people are like, hey, like, you didn't get a job right away. Like, no, like, sometimes things take extra time, and there's no issue with that. Like, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be, so don't be, like, I don't know, afraid if, like, it's not something that comes right away, I guess, is what I'm saying. But I would say most of my class did get hired.
Just to add on to that, it's just like the internship thing. If you don't get a job right away, don't be afraid to, within moderation, spam the studio that you want to work with. Show them progress. From what I've heard, it's a good thing to be, what's the word?
Persistent?
I'm looking for a word. Sorry, what was that?
Persistent?
Yes. Persistent. But also enthusiastic, like not like, hi, I applied last week, I'm applying again this week, wait for feedback and then apply that feedback. I think there's a lot of opportunity
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good point, Amaleen. We did have someone at a studio I worked at where they were applying every week, and that wasn't a good look.
Yeah,
no.
it's just what I've heard.
Sorry, who was about to speak?
Sorry, I was just gonna add on to that just like briefly, and that yeah, like if you're persistent but in like a healthy way. So like if you're going to them, maybe not necessarily being like, hey, like give me a job, but maybe being like, maybe you're in school and you're like, hey, like I've heard, like I just wanted to show you like my module and I wanted to see if you had any feedback on it. Like that's okay. Like if they're too busy to like respond, they won't. And that's fine. Like if you're not bothering them per se, just maybe they're, you know, too busy or they took extra time. So like don't expect feedback, but like sometimes if they do give you feedback, do the feedback and send it back completed and be like, hey, I took your feedback, like just wanted to like show you like if you had any other thoughts. You know what I mean? And then they'll be like, oh wow, like they actually, like I gave them feedback and they applied it, which means they can follow instructions, they're willing to work and do, you know what I mean? It's things like that. Like they just show that you're enthusiastic and you want to work hard, I guess. But you don't have to do that, like, but it helps.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have to add to the point? We haven't heard from Amaleen for a while.
I think that was a good answer. Just yeah, like ask for revisions if you know, like if you want to. Yeah.
It is a good point. I think I'm going to also add on to that one because don't worry about the 99% hiring rate. That's just like propaganda for the program. Our year, this is a bit of a side story. Our year on studio day, we had the teachers running around saying, because before then they were like 99% hiring rate, it's going to be great, everything like that. On studio day, we had the teachers running around saying, don't worry if you don't get hired, don't worry if you don't get hired, because they caught wind that it wasn't going to be a booming year that year for hiring.
Yeah.
So it also depends on like the time of year and like if the studios are hiring. Sometimes they're not, and sometimes it just takes like, I don't think Mercury was hiring until like a month later that year.
Yeah, like I definitely know that there were certain studios, like for ours, like I think some people only heard back from a studio like I think like a month after. Like sometimes like the time that you want to get hired like right out of school doesn't always come in line with like what shows are starting. You know what I mean? Like they can't just like hire like 1 million students onto like shows that they've already got full. You know what I mean? So like it comes down to like kind of timing. So like don't put it on yourself. Like it's just kind of the nature of the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, like, even now, I think just a month ago, there was one other animator added to the new hiring team. So, yeah, it's not the end of the world if you don't get hired immediately. Because there are going to be shows, at least I know for Jamfield, there's work in the future for everyone and new students coming. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, the 99% hiring rate is a phone call that the college will call you like a year later and ask you if you're working in your field or not. So you got a year.
Oh, they actually going to call us because I'm not going to answer it.
Oh, God. Yeah.
If you're mad at the college and you want to stick it to them, say you're not working in the industry.
No, I just don't answer my phone ever.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to ask one more question to wrap it up because this has been a fantastic talk so far, and I'm really happy with all the subjects we've gone through and everyone's responses. But for our final question, I want to know where you all want to be like in the future and what you want to work towards. Like, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
That's a...
As new to the industry, where do you guys want to be in the future?
Employed.
Yeah, that's the
You
dream.
will be.
I would eventually like to,
Quarantine.
I don't know, like be a lead or supervisor. I think that'd be really fun. I love working with people. So I think that'd be fun. Like try to explore that. I don't know. I love layout. So like I like staying, like I think I'll stay in the like in layout for, I mean, at least for a while. But yeah, I'd love to be in one of those roles, like a lead or supervisor one day, you know?
Mhm. Awesome.
I don't know.
I'd like to be a supervisor. I really
Yeah.
I really like helping people. Like, not to get sappy at 7:35 on a Friday,
That's the
but
perfect time.
yeah, exactly. It's right there. But I mean, I guess in a few years, I'd like to be working, with my friends on shows that I think are interesting, helping people where I can and learning.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty much all you can ask of the future, is just to continue growing and doing it with people that you love and people that will support you, and you'll support them back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else want to take it from there? Ameleen's muted. Oh no.
Oh no.
You go ahead, Louise.
Yeah, just I kind of maybe one day build supervisor. Like, that's all I got.
That's fair.
That's all you need.
That's all you need. They get to build all the main characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amaleen.
Yeah.
I have a couple things. I just want to do everything. God.
Be ambitious.
I know that
Yeah.
feeling.
I want to be a supervisor because it would be really, really cool to train new hires and teach people. But I kind of wanted to teach at Algonquin for a while, and I don't think that changed. I would love to teach first year. I don't know why. I think
You could be the next
same.
Katie.
Same.
I'll be the next
You-
Katie. That'd be
Yeah.
so fun.
Infiltrate
That
the
would be
school. Let's
amazing.
go. You and me, Amaleen.
But I would say the overall goal would be feature eventually. 3D feature
Oh yeah.
one day. I'll sell my soul.
Oh yeah, because you switched. So
Yeah, I switched. Oh yeah, I was in 3D for the entire year. And then I realized that I hated 3D at that time. No, I didn't hate it. I realized I wanted to focus on harmony. And so I switched to 2D. I switched into Keith's class, like very last minute, like 3 months before graduation. So that was kind of scary. And my demo reel was bare bones, which is why they asked for extra work, because I really didn't have much. And I'm pretty sure it was only because of Keith that I got hired. I personally would not have hired me based on my demo reel. I personally think my demo reel was very weak.
you showed
No.
potential.
No, it was good. It was-
Amaleen.
don't
you
listen to
showed
her.
potential.
It was a good demo reel.
It was really good.
It was good, by the way. I've seen it. So
I think it's just because I hounded Keith and I got many revs and tried hard, I guess.
Yes.
The anxiety.
And that's all you can do, is try hard. Try
Yeah.
your best.
Yeah.
You can't put in any more than what you can. That's all they can expect of you.
But yeah, teacher.
Yeah. Finally, Emily, where do you want to be?
I wouldn't mind being a supervisor, but like more on the analyzing and like organizing side. Not that I don't like people, but
So production.
yeah.
well, we sort
Oh,
of.
that'd be cool.
We do have a supervisor that kind of just does organizing and
Oh.
the
Yeah.
analysis of all the scenes and stuff, and I think that'd be kind of fun. And then like way down the road, I'd like to be like a storyboard artist.
Yeah.
Nice.
Some nice BGs in there.
Oh my God! Can you give me more than just like no grid or anything? That'd be
Yeah. I'm full of bears in a snowstorm.
awesome.
Oh, I love it.
God.
Yeah. Thank you all for talking and taking the time to do this. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I really hope that everyone who's tuned in got a lot out of it.
Oh. Somebody had asked on the Discord, the All Years Discord,
Oh.
is this being recorded?
Yes.
Okay, I would say, because a lot of people are in class right now.
I'm recording it right now.
Okay,
Yay.
I'm going to go
If
and
anyone
let
has
everyone
any other
know.
questions, like don't hesitate to like reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send them in the
DM
O.A.T.S. group
us.
chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll literally type up a storm.
Or like on
you
social
know?
media, like ask us questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really active on like Instagram, so like or in Discord. So like if you want to ask layout questions, bring it.
It's true. You were promoting this talk a lot on Instagram, which is really good.
If y'all want builds or revisions, just hit me up. I'll look at them for you if you want.
Yeah. Same with animation revs.
We were in your shoes
Yes,
6-7 months ago.
Oh yeah.
So we know the anxiety.
Please talk to us. We're so lonely. We want friends.
I love making new
We're
friends.
always at our computers. So.
I'm not very good at making friends. But
I'm
I'll sure
very
try.
shy, but I'll try my best.
Again, thank you all for doing this.
Thank you.
It's been a really good conversation.
Thanks to everyone for showing up. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you all.
I think we had a height of 25. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. That's so cool.
And I think this is our last one for November, and then December I'm gonna try to get one more talk in. I gotta figure out a subject, but we're probably gonna talk about the pay, which I think a lot of people are really interested in, especially for people coming from school. And hopefully we can get that happening. I just gotta find a few people to talk about it. But again, thank you very much, and you guys can all sign off if you want and enjoy your Friday. Don't think about the studio. Do something else.
Get to play Minecraft.
Play Minecraft.
Oh yeah.
All right, squad, to Minecraft.